So, Dane, you got any plans for Valentine's Day?
I think I'll come up with some stuff off the top of my head so I don't get my head chopped off for not having anything.
I thought he got burned.
Either way, I'd be in big trouble.
Hearts on fire, strong desire.
Yeah.
That's an 80s reference. You wouldn't get it.
I don't get it.
Hearts on fire, strong desire. It's a Rocky Balboa song. It's not the Tiger one that we all know and love.
Yeah.
Eye of the Tigre.
Yeah.
And it's not, you're the best around. Nothing's ever going to bring you down. Yeah, we were talking about St. Valentine's, and then I made it a Rocky Balboa moment. So
it's beautiful how that mind of yours works. Just weaving.
It doesn't work.
Weaving themes together.
Some might argue that it doesn't work, and I'd be among them. Anyway, Dane, you want to get to the main?
I think we should get into the
just reminder,
this whole thing
was probably coming out on Wednesday. So if you didn't do anything yesterday, you're going home to a very mad girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever pronoun, wife, husband, divorcee, ex. They're about to be your ex.
But just tell them you got this episode for their Valentine present and it'll be good enough because reasons.
Or you could just turn around to them and say, well, you forgot too. So, wasn't always the man's job to remember.
That's
anyway.
Right. Hashtag equality.
Okay. Hashtag toxic masculinity. Anyway, so the meme to destroy today is Tom Brady's Sandy butt sand.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that you could get paid grossly for just scooping up a handful of sand and slapping it in a jar just because it smells like Tom Brady's asshole?
Some incredibly entrepreneurial individual. That's who.
We should start following around that Bella, whatever her name was, that was all the rage. Not Bella Thorne. There's some other, anyway. The one that was selling her bathwater. You remember that?
I think a lot of them do that, don't they? Isn't that like a common thing on the OnlyFans chicks?
I fucking hope not.
They sell weird stuff like...
I wouldn't know, Dane.
Like used socks and whatever.
I wouldn't know, Dane. I have a date for
I've seen stories, okay?
I have a date for Valentine's. Anyway, Culture Corner.
This podcast is taking too much money. I don't have money to spend on that, okay?
Listen,
this is where all of my money goes.
I don't have time for chocolates and roses, goddammit. I only have time for tears and fears. Anyway, good band, though. Culture Corner. DiCaprio doing it right. He's got his reasons and he's got his cutoffs, and the man sticks to it and is quite rigid with them.
I mean, that's one take on that particular subject matter.
And Epstein didn't kill himself because, as we all know, he didn't. 99 red communistic balloons seem to be flying all over the place in the US of A.
Some of them go pop when they've completed their mission, and some of them go pop right when they start. More on that in a second.
Pop Valentine's Day. I like what you did there. There we go. And then the unvaxxed track. Should you have to lie to your doctor about your medical
status
happenings? Like, would that lead to bad outcomes, don't you think?
I believe that doctor-patient confidentiality and, being upfront, and I believe that's one of the foundational tenets of good healthcare. But, what do I know? I'm not an expert.
I thought you were supposed to be able to share that information with anybody other than the two of you, right?
Your doctor.
Basically what you're slamming home right there.
That's what I thought. Once upon a time in a slightly less insane world.
Slam home. Another Valentine's Day reference.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway.
Lots of slamming going on.
Lots of... Not for us, though. Not us, right?
Not us.
Anyway, you want to get into the main?
Let's do it. Welcome to Weapons of Meme Destruction Podcast, episode 133, which can be found at wmdpodcast.com/133. You can get the audio only on any podcast catcher. Just search Weapons of Meme Destruction. You can get the video on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. Little forewarning for the YouTube crowd. The main episode, the last segment of this episode, is going to be blanked out again. So go over to Rumble or Odyssey to check that one. Because as you may have gleaned from the intro talk, we are talking about the no-no topic in the main. So we're going to block that out on YouTube so we don't get canceled. You can go check the full episode out on Rumble or Odyssey. Other than those places to find the podcast, you can also link up with us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook only, or Facebook page is members only. So $5 a month. Go to wdpodcast.com, click on the search our work or support our work tab, and you can find out how to get into the sane space over there. But we're also on Float, which is the Facebook competitor, and trying to think if I left anything out. I did not.
Tribal.
Oh, Tribal. Yeah. Also Tribal. And
despite our best efforts,
again, even though I always say it last, it should be at this point first in your hearts. The email list. Again, for the reason that you'll always be able to find us there, but even more important than that, sometimes we drop little nuggets on you that it's kind of important to have ahead of time. For example, this week we made our first appearance on another podcast called the Whiskey Capitalist Podcast. Shout out to Ian and Sean over there.
Good boys over there at the Whiskey Capitalist.
Good guys.
Good
we
boys.
had a hilarious and just great overall time with them, just chopping it up, talking about different current events and things like that. So go check out the Whiskey Capitalist Podcast on YouTube, Rumble. They do the first half of the show on YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter, and then the second half only on Rumble because we can actually all be adults and talk about adult things on Rumble. But anyway, shout out to them. Again, it's called the Whiskey Capitalist Podcast. It's part of the Till Death Network, which has a few different podcasts and shows as a part of that network. So go check them out. Give them a follow on Twitter. Give them a follow on YouTube and Rumble. Because we formed a pretty good professional relationship with them. And I think at some point in the future, we'll be on with them again. They'll come on our show.
That professional?
Well, as professional as we're capable of.
Semi-professional at best. We're not in the Premier League yet.
But if you were on the email list, circling back to that, then you got the notification from me the night before that, hey, come check us out at Whiskey Capitalist Podcast. Very helpful. Had the links right to the show. So all you had to do was click on Wednesday night when the stream went live, and you could have been in there with us. So that's just another reason to be on the email list.
Where the hell were you? Anyway.
With that being said, David, let's get into it. The meme that we're destroying today is not necessarily a funny picture. There's nothing for Nameless Faceless Video Guy to put up here with us. It was more of a headline that I thought there's a teachable moment here. And the headline is that some industrious young person, I'm going to assume it's a gentleman, found, if any of you saw...
Because only men can be this creepy, by the way. This detailed with their creepiness. Only men can get this far into finding out things about someone's ass.
I mean, let's be honest. It wasn't that complicated. So for those of you who don't know, Tom Brady recorded himself from his phone, apparently, this last week, giving his official second and hopefully final retirement announcement. And in the back, you could clearly, he's obviously in Florida. I don't know if he was up around the Tampa area, Miami, whatever. But if you've ever been to Florida, you know that the line of buildings that are on the coast, wherever you go in Florida, can be pretty distinct. And somebody matched up the buildings that was in the background of Tom Brady's retirement speech and went to that area of the beach, allegedly, and put some sand in a jar and put it up for sale on eBay. And when it first happened, there was talks that the jar might go for around six figures, $100K, for putting some sand from a beach in a jar.
And we can't get you to
eBay.
pay $5 a month. People are paying $100K plus for Tom Brady's ass sand.
That's
and
right.
We can't even get one goddamn fucking Lincoln from you. Jesus Christ.
And now, obviously, you're thinking, well, first of all, how do I know that the sand in that jar is even from the spot that they say it's from? Second of all,
that's a good point.
Second of all, it's a beach. There's tons of sand.
I know how they do it. They pop the top and they go, oh.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly how it works.
It's Brady ass.
Because
Smell that.
whoever bought it knows exactly what Brady's ass smells like.
I bought his jockstrap years ago.
This is a match. Yeah.
This is it. I can tell from them.
Second of all, and even more importantly, perhaps, is even if they say, look, here's the picture, here's me putting the sand in the jar, that's how you know that it's, from the Tom Brady spot where he made his retirement announcement. Last time I checked, a lot of sand at the beach. So this isn't exactly a scarce product,
Dane, stop the presses right now. Stop recording. We need to go to the beach right now. Right now.
Listen, this
is like Bitcoin. I feel like if you start selling sand, you'll be like, Salma Hayek sat here.
It's exactly the opposite of Bitcoin.
Brad Pitt shook his head off after he got out of
Bitcoin
the
has
sea.
scarcity built into it. There will only ever be 21 million.
There's
coins.
only going to be so many granules of sand that caught Brad Pitt's illustrious head wagging salt water. Okay?
Right, but as we said, there's no way to prove that the grains of sand that you got in that jar are the ones that his butt actually touched, or Brad Pitt's hair, or Salma Hayek's cleavage, or whatever you
we're
want
working
to
on
go
levels,
with.
right? We're working on levels? Okay, good.
So anyway, the teachable moment and why this is in the meme section is because, and you're going to say at first, Dane, you're coming way out of left field with this one. This is another teachable moment to destroy Marxism and to destroy the labor theory of value, right? Marx would tell you everything gets its value based on the human labor that was put into it. But as we can clearly demonstrate from this example, if somebody is willing to put $100,000 into a jar of sand, which can be infinitely repeatable and unprovable that it is what it says it is, then apparently scarcity is not the one and only factor, or the guy's labor of going to just shovel some hand in a jar is not the factor that is leading to that price that somebody pays for. So what is? It's subjective value. It's the subjective determination of the buyer. Some buyer says, yep, I think that's Brady butt sand. I'm taking it to the bank, literally, and I'm paying $100,000 for it. The only way to explain that price valuation on something like that is because value is subjective. It's not based on the labor that goes into it.
And I think the true story here is, how sad are you that you're willing to spend $100,000 on Brady butt sand? Like, what is so broken in you that you only have Brady so close to your heart and no one else, that you have to have his butt sand and you're willing to pay upwards of six figures?
To be fair, I don't know if that's the price that it actually fetched, but that's what people were thinking it could get up to. So I don't know what the jar actually sold.
If it's over 50 cents, you've way overpaid.
Okay, but by making that point, David, you
seek help. If you're the person that bought that, seek help. If you have like the last home run ball that Hank Aaron hit, awesome, cool, good for you. That's pretty legit. If you have the last touchdown ball that Brady ever threw, that's cool. If you have the Super Bowl ring that Putin stole from what's his name?
Robert Kraft.
Yeah, Robert. I thought it was Coach Belichick, but Robert Kraft, right? So like, if you have the Super Bowl ring that was stolen by Putin from Kraft, and now it's in your possession, you're a baller, my friend. Mm-hmm. That's not only historical in an NFL sense, but also geopolitically. Money well spent. If you have Brady ass sand from where he retired for the second time? It's not even his first retirement. But
it's the final
seek
retirement.
help, sir.
But see,
we
here's
think
the thing.
until the trade deadline this year, all of a sudden the Raiders need a quarterback and they got a pretty good offensive line in a shitty division.
But here's the thing, right?
Here comes the Cape Crusader.
David's castigating of the buyer notwithstanding, this again proves.
I don't even know what the fuck that means, but
this again proves the point, right? Because we have two different buyers, right? The buyer who paid $100,000 and David. David wouldn't pay. You couldn't pay David to take the jar. Forget 50 cents. He probably wouldn't accept money from you. And, it was a lot of money to keep it and put it on his mantle. So the only thing that can describe that discrepancy in price between what one consumer is willing to pay for it and what another consumer is willing to pay for it is subjective value. That's what it is. So the next time you hear some leftist, Marxist, brain-dead, mouth-breathing drooler tell you about the labor theory of value,
oh my God,
and that the reason why they can prove to you that the minimum wage needs to be raised because laborers are being exploited, the only way that labor is exploited is if the labor theory of value is correct. And it's not. Cite Brady butt sand.
The only way that the guy gets out of it is if it's a psyop and he bought that sand so that he pays me to put it on my mantle because he knows how much I hate Brady and I have to see it every day. He pays me individually each day to keep it up there so I have to see it. To like, for another person to just have to revel in Tom Brady's magnificence. I just have to know that I have Brady butt sand on my... That's the only way to like grow great Brady's mantle. Anything other than that, it's not. Yeah, this is a shameful ploy to get money. I have no problem with that. Finally, I'm coming to the dark side with you, Dane.
Listen, hey, I'm glad. Maybe we can get this
put
thing
it right
in the
here.
black.
You know
eventually.
what? It'll cost you $350 per episode. Put it right here. I'll brush it every 10 minutes.
Exactly. All right, so
or I'll do that little thing that they do with like the Chinese. I'll like do the grooming on top to make it look pretty.
Now, with Marx roundly refuted more times than there are grains of sand on a beach.
Nice.
Moving into the culture corner, we're talking Leo DiCaprio and his, I believe it's now 19-year-old girlfriend.
Woo!
I want to say, I'm pretty sure she's a model.
How old is he?
I think she's from Israel or something like that.
40, 50?
47, I think.
Nice.
So,
nice.
So yeah. Now, this story, I'm going to let David start this story out and kind of give you his thoughts on this whole thing because I have a completely different tangent to go off with it. But I want David to fill you in on what he thinks about Leo and his dating escapades first.
First of all, it's sex.
Are we in support of Leo or are we not? Not we, the royal we, as in you. Are we supporting Leo or we think this is kind of unseemly?
I'm sorry, am I supposed to tell another human being what they can or can't do sexually with their lives? Because I don't know. I've had it shoved down my throat more often than I could count, and a hell of a lot more than I could stand, that I can't tell anybody else what they can and can't do with their bodies at any given time or the realities that they're living in at any given time. And God bless him if he can still pull 19-year-old ass, not just like a fat like little chunkers that he's paying for her college. Like he's pulling a supermodel each. She wasn't even alive when he was like starting his career. She might not have even been alive. She might not have even been alive during The Revenant, which is what he won the Oscar for. She might have been. She was in middle school.
The Revenant is not 19 years old.
Bro, she might have been in middle school.
Well, The Revenant's like 6 years old. Not that old of a movie.
I don't think, is it? Okay, well, she hadn't graduated high school yet. I can guarantee you that.
That's true. That is true.
Well, so I had to move back, but my fortress still stands. All I'm saying is that retreat, run away. Can't risk another frontal assault. That rabbit's dynamite. Anyway, my point being is like, why is it anyone's business what Leo decides to do with his body at any given time, with whose other willing participant in what he does with his said body? And you know what? The man sticks to his principles. He's got a legitimate modus operandi. You're cool until you're 25. And you know what? I think he's doing them a favor. Because think about all these chicks that live this party life. You don't want to, well, let's go to, we're fast forwarding here. Epstein. All these women are out here on the documentary saying, he stole my childhood, he stole my innocence, he did this, that, and the other. Well, what he did is he offered you a portion of life that you wouldn't have had any opportunity to get to on your own. And now you've thrown away your future for that life. Well, what I would say Leo's doing is he's offering them a catch and release program. To be honest with you, you get to enjoy this life until you're 25. And then when you're 25, You get to go out there. You get to go back to Kansas. You get to go back to Wisconsin. You get to go back to Ohio, wherever the fuck you're from. Say, I was a model until I was 20. I dated Leo DiCaprio. He probably gave me a nice compensation when I left. And then I went home and I lived a normal life. That's what I would say. I'd say Leo's a good guy in this episode. I'd say that, or option B, that's what the fuck he likes. And either one is the correct answer because there's no wrong answer here. I'm sorry, is she below 18? Is it statutory? Is it
19.
illegal for him to do that? Okay, cool.
No.
Is she a willing participant? Seems like it. Seems like every chick he's ever been with is a willing participant. I don't see what's wrong here. But of course, everybody, well, he's a man and he shouldn't be. If fucking Kate Beckinsale was dating, who's that Beetlejuice looking motherfucker?
Pete Davidson.
How old was Pete Davidson? 20?
I don't remember.
Ish at the time. She was close to 50-ish at the time. No one batted a fucking eye. They're like, good for you, Kate. You still look great. And people are like, hey, Pete, nice job, dude. Like, no one had a problem with that. But when it's the opposite way, it's disgusting. How dare he? She doesn't even know what she's doing. She's a supermodel. She's seen a dick before. Can we all calm down? Anyway, I give the counselor the rest of my remaining time.
Okay, well, that's certainly one take on the topic, but I do want to
right take, goddammit.
Kind of the part where David finished is where I wanted to make the point that I wanted to make about it, because what I'm seeing a lot, as you know, as I've said repeatedly on this podcast, for better or worse, probably worse for my mental health, I follow entirely too many leftist pages, meme pages, commentators, etc. So I have a pretty good read on what the people that I disagree with the most think about various topics. And this is one example where I'm seeing all over those pages and commenters saying basically what David said about, oh, how terrible this is, gross, this is da-da-da-da. And then, defenders of Leo will say, what's the big deal? She's legal. That's all that matters, right? Other than that, leave them alone, right? They're two consenting adults. And they are just all up in arms and pearl clutching that somebody would say, well, it doesn't matter if it's legal. It's just kind of icky, right? That's kind of the take. And so the reason why I wanted to focus on that particular direction and focus more on the reaction to the situation, I'm kind of neutral about the whole Leo thing. Like, it doesn't matter to me one way or another. He's, again, like David was saying, he's dating a legal adult, so there's no reason to throw him in a cage. The rest of it is just individual misgivings about what's morally correct or uncomfortable or whatever. But the reason why that's so interesting to me that the left is saying, well, just because it's legal doesn't make it okay, right? What they're telling you is...
What the fuck? That's exactly what that means.
What they're telling you is they have some sort of gut feeling to them, for whatever reason, that it's wrong. And they don't care about the legality. And I thought that was particularly interesting because it is the left, more than any other group of people in society, who always make it synonymous, legality and morality. They're always moralizing about what should be done, right? We should tax the rich. We should do this. We should do that. Everything. There should be a law, right? If there was a catchphrase for the left, it would be this. There should be a law, insert X. They are always in their mind and their philosophy in terms of what they want to see reflected in policy. It's always morality equals legality. Right? This is why they're so obsessed with taking over the state and making the state basically impose their will on the other half of society and calling the other half fascists and bigots and racists and Nazis if they don't fall in line, is because, again, they look at the state as the hammer with which we can pound down all the nails in society. So it's funny for that group that always analogizes between legality and morality to, in this instance, be like, well, the legality shouldn't impact the morality. These are two different things. And so what I would say to you, dear leftist, if you're first time at this podcast, is it sucks, doesn't it? It sucks to see your ideology turned so eloquently back on you, and you're looking at a mirror and seeing that all of the things that you moralize about and say, well, we should make this legal and that illegal and all of this kind of stuff that you do to everybody else in every other aspect of life doesn't really hold a whole lot of weight when somebody replies to you, well, it's legal. The law says she's an adult, so what are you bitching about? Right? So I would just caution you when you apply that to every other aspect of life, that you want to use the state to impose your will on everybody else. I want to caution you to politely and with all due disrespect to go fuck yourself. That's my takeaway from the DiCaprio situation.
Well, and then again, pardon me if I go a bridge too far here and get us another strike on YouTube, which I'm not trying to do. Let that be clear right now. But this is also coming from the same side that's arguing that children around the age of 6 to 10 should be able to decide whether or not they can have hormone reassignment therapy, irrevocably changing their lives forever. Not dating a dude and then realizing that maybe they shouldn't be doing it, which is totally reversible and you can end it at any time. To do something to their body that they'll never be able to change at an age where we don't even trust them to drive a car or vote or drink. She can't drink yet. But she can vote and drive a car. The woman that's dating DiCaprio. So again, it's weird the fucking places you guys decide to put your flags. It's weird the ground that you're not willing to concede. To put it this way, children should be treated as children until they're adults. And we all agreed that that was 18, which this girl is 19. She's a whole 365 days plus past that time you said she was an adult and can make her own fucking decisions. But you trust a child to make its decisions for its future when it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Stop it. You're not making any sense more. Shut the fuck up. Go back to your little echo chamber and just scream at each other. No one's listening. And again, if this will be my last, if you complain about everything, we will stop listening to you about anything. If you complain about everything,
a lot of us already have stopped listening.
Well, I mean, those that
other
do
than to call you out for just
right.
Being
This is just ridiculous. I don't think I base my life off of any of their moral platitudes.
Right.
I don't think you do either.
No.
So you've lost us. But if you have the remaining 5 white males that have testosterone coursing through their body listening to you still, I suggest you keep them because they're going to be imperative for you to spread whatever bullshit you have next. So just pick your battles, you know. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I always like, once their ideology is turned around back on them and somebody makes the reply, well, it's legal, so what are you bitching about? And that makes them kind of feel uncomfortable or icky. What do? Right? They lash out and they project onto not only that individual, but onto DiCaprio himself. They project their shitty, disgusting personalities onto other people and just assume ill intent. So, right. So when you make this reply, they'll say, oh, well, Leo's doing it because he's got this power dynamic and it's just this young, impressionable girl that he's taking advantage of and blah, 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 right?
It's also insulting to the woman.
That's projecting, right? Because they're the ones who advocate into every aspect of society that all of their preferences need to be reflected in terms of public policy from the government to be able to force you to do something against your will. We just lived through 2.5 years of this with that subject that we're not going to talk about in this segment because we don't want to kick this one over to Rumble either. But this is exactly how they acted for those entire 2.5 years. I want people to do what I demand that they do, come what may. So I need to control the reins of power so that my policy preferences force other people to do it. And it's hilarious, right? That kind of person who does that in every other aspect of life will have their primary objection to someone like DiCaprio of he's using an unfair power dynamic to impose his will on a young, impressionable girl. It hurts to look in the mirror, doesn't it, lefties? So, this is just one more example of that happening. And, let us be, the scumbag cis white males that are telling you about it, which you're never going to see, and you probably turned this episode off a long time ago. That's all right. We don't like having you here anyway.
We do if you want.
No, I don't. If this is the kind of person that you are, and you are so lacking in self-reflection,
we can change them, Dane.
If you are so lacking in self-reflection to be able to see that you are this person, then the culture, the tribe that we're building with this sane space, with this podcast, is not for you. And that's fine. I'm not, or we are not a part of the culture or tribe that you're trying to build over on, God knows what other platform, on Mastodon with all your CP, right? That ain't us. Just like you're not for us either. But if you are willing to examine facts and change your mind and all that kind of stuff, welcome on in. No judgment from there forward.
Just one caveat onto that you maybe realize is that they're so busy attacking DiCaprio on this issue that they're insulting the woman. They're being toxically masculine right now. They're saying that DiCaprio is making all the decisions. What about the woman's decision? She's consenting. She's there. You think she's an adult. She has women's rights, as we all hear that if the soccer team needs to get paid the same as the men's soccer team, then Jesus Christ, shouldn't the women that make their own choices out in that world be supported just as much? No, not to you guys. So you're letting your pronouns, whatever reproductive organ, hang out of your pants when you do this shit.
Overall, it's an incredibly patronizing ideology. Yeah.
Which I would say is what they would say is toxically masculine.
Yeah. Because they'll either say, I know what's better for you than you do, which is why you should let me rule the world. And if you happen to disagree with me, but you happen to belong to one of these groups who I've told you is oppressed by other people, or nameless, faceless concepts like the patriarchy, right? If you are in that oppressed group and you don't agree with me, oh, well, that's just because you're brainwashed. And
they've got a word for us.
You just don't know any better. And so I still need to rule over you, even if you disagree with me from that oppressed group, which is not me oppressing you. I got to give it to him. It holds no water with anybody who thinks about it for 5 seconds, but it is it's a clever way that they've set it up to where they're always going to be right.
What's that biblical phrase? Like, remove the plank from your eye before I remove the splinter from mine.
Yeah, but the Bible is the worst thing ever.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it myself, but I got to tell you, there's some pretty good quips in there.
Yeah.
You should check it out. Anyway, Dave, before we belabor the point too much, Epstein, did he kill himself or not?
He did not, and those balloons didn't pop themselves either. So...
I don't know. Judges?
Was it a good one?
That's a sexual innuendo. That's a sexual innuendo.
So last week, the previous Chinese spy balloon, because as we sit here today on February 10th, 2023, I'm not going to say it is a Chinese one, but there is another slow-moving, high-altitude object over American soil that was shot down today. But before we get to that, we're going to backtrack just a little bit and say, we know, just like everybody else, the Chinese spy balloon last week that completed its mission over the entire continental United States before Sleepy Joe decided to wake up from his nap and have it shot down. Yes, David, go.
What world are we living in right now? We've got like drones, we've got like satellites, we've got all this shit that's so fun. We can almost see into the future. We've created the God particle, and the thing that thwarts us. Well, we found it. The thing that thwarts us is the old balloon camera on a balloon trick. And Jesus Christ, we couldn't correct in time. We can't shoot this balloon down. It's made of dynamite. Anyway, go ahead.
So anyway,
it's not lost. The irony is not lost on me.
We'll say that the episode, or the topics that we addressed on 132 just barely nudged out the Chinese spy balloon last week. But in light of today's events, we figured it was worth circling back on because it's just funny, right, how these things develop. So just a real quick and dirty situation with the Chinese spy balloon from last week that kind of makes the one that was shot down today on February 10th over Alaska all the more funny. Right, so the Chinese spy balloon from last week, it went over Alaska, then into Canada, and then re-entered America around Idaho, Montana area. And it was first spotted by a civilian around Billings, Montana. And this was such a big deal that they shut down air traffic around Billings, Montana, warned commercial pilots of it, and eventually, scrambled some military jets to go up and take a look at it. Although Biden, in his infinite grace and wisdom, allowed the Chinese to complete their mission over the continental United States. Again, assuming you believe that it actually is a Chinese spy balloon, but we're going to go with that. And shoots it down right after it completes its mission, sends all its data back to China, and he shoots it down over the ocean off of South Carolina. Now, a lot of interesting little claims in there. First, it was, well, we didn't shoot it down because it wasn't a threat to national security at all. And then it was, oh, well, we didn't have to shoot it down because it wasn't transmitting any information back to China. Because, I don't know, I guess the Chinese just forgot to put they went through all this trouble to float the balloon over here anyway and didn't transmit any of the data back to China. We're supposed to believe that. And then a couple days after it's already into its trip and discovered, and the U.S. government can't deny it anymore because people are literally taking pictures of it with their phone, the U.S. government says, oh, yeah, well, there was like 3 of these that happened under Trump. Well, Trump, his national security advisor, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the general that heads up NORAD, all of them said, we never saw any balloons, and it was our job to look for things like this during the Trump administration. We never saw it. So again, who are you going to believe? The Biden administration who made it up 5 minutes ago, or all of these other people that aren't exactly Trump insiders that tell you that it's all a bunch of bullshit? So just the whole thing around the previous Chinese spy balloon about, well, it's not that much big of a deal, and that's why we let it complete. But then, the last president did it a whole bunch, and none of this is corroboratable. I don't know if that's a word. It was just a mess how the whole thing was handled. And then we have today, where another high altitude, I think it was 40,000 feet, was floating over Alaska. And the government goes up right down, shoots it down right there, right over Alaska. And guess what their reasoning was for why they did it this time? Because it was a danger, in particular, to commercial air travel. So the one balloon that went across the entire contiguous lower 48 from Idaho to South Carolina was not a danger to commercial air travel, despite commercial pilots saying otherwise. But this one was. And they shot it down. Now, we don't know if this new one was Chinese. We don't know where it came from. We don't know anything about it. But we know that the Pentagon admitted today that they shot it down. So, what's the Epstein moment in this, David? Well, the Epstein moment is about every day of our godforsaken lives these days. Whatever the government tells you, it's probably a lie. And if you see it with your own eyes, it's probably only half true. So, use that going forward.
I mean, my first question is, who's in charge of Xi's espionage regime? Is it Wile E. Coyote? And secondly, if that is the case, then we had very good documentation that we could study for the next attack. Oh, I don't know, maybe a painted window that we have to run in, or a painted sign that we run into, a rocket that doesn't work exactly. Wait, that's North Korea. My whole point being, we could have gathered some intel on what they're going to do next, but we already canceled Looney Tunes because Pepe Le Pew was a rapist.
Yeah. And Wile E. Coyote himself was too violent. So.
Well, he was...
Can't be having kids learning violence from animated coyotes.
Heaven forbid. But we can have Sims games that have mastectomy scars on it, right?
Yep, we can do that. That is perfectly doable for us.
Totally acceptable in this society that none of us are agreeing with, but they're still doing it anyway. Anyway, my whole point being is it feels like it was the one that they used the phrase we didn't shoot down the balloon because there might have been chemical warfare in it, and we didn't want to subject the public to potentially any population to potentially being poisoned, which was brought up on the Whiskey Capitalist podcast. Go check them out. That we just had an episode with them. They're a great group of guys. But so you were telling me that the reason you didn't shoot it down in Montana, that I think 200 people live in the entire state, and it's one of the biggest states in our union, was at risk for a localized chemical dispersion? That's interesting. It's very interesting.
I mean, yeah, Montana is very unpopulated, but so is a large chunk of the Midwest. It flew over Kansas, and I'll tell you, we grew up in Kansas. There's large chunks of Kansas where there ain't
It's
a
just
soul
meth
for
houses
miles.
and dirt. Just meth houses and dirt. And every now and again, it's just dirt because the meth house,
So
you get it.
So, you'll have to excuse us when we laugh and, at just the sheer bullshittery of the excuse of,
But then they go
we
out
couldn't find a
they
safe
nail
place to
it.
knock it down.
They nail it right away before I can get it over anything. It's like, oh, well, now you're trying too hard.
Jesus.
It's
Hey, but the good news is, David, I don't know if you
so
heard
disappointed.
that the plane that shot down the previous Chinese spy balloon, I don't know which one shot down the one today on February 10th, but the one that shot down the other one off the coast of South Carolina was an F-22, which you'll be happy to know, taxpayers,
Only cost you.
of the $65 billion $65 billion and 2 decades of research and development that went into the F-22 program, it now has its first kill of a balloon.
Tell you what, at this rate, I see China, they're playing the long game. At this rate, it costs us probably about $20 million to send one of those up each time and fire one of those missiles at it. And it costs them 2 guys sitting there going, tie it off now, tie it off now. Oh, they go very, very, very high, yeah. So good for you, yeah, chicken shrimp. Is that racist?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Was I just a racist?
I think
Sorry.
me just laughing
I like
probably makes me.
Oh, that's Japanese. Now that's racist. Yep.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, you're a pretty bad person. Should we move on to the next segment before you get any worse?
I could get worse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
You can get worse.
I think we both know I could. Yes, please.
All right. So, moving into the no-no segment, as I speak and I slowly start to fade out of your hearing now, it's because Nameless Faceless Guy is putting the black over our face and you can't hear me anymore.
that have to be shot down by F-22s and F-15s.
Always look for what they're trying to distract you from.
Shiny, glittery objects. Anyway, Dane, with all that being said, where can they find this illustrious episode?
They can find episode 133 at wmdpodcast.com/133. They can get the podcast audio only on any podcast catcher. Just search Weapons of Meme Destruction. They can get the video on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey. They can link up with us on our other socials on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. That's a members only page, $5 a month. Go to the website to figure out how to sign up for that. And they can see us on Float. They can see us on Tribal. And I believe I got all that. Make sure you join the email list. That's the best place to stay in contact with us at all times. And you know, one of the key takeaways we took from our stream appearance on the Whiskey Capitalist podcast is that's going to be a pretty quick way for us to start getting into the guest game. We've gone to live events, libertarian kind of conservative type events in the past, and got some at least tentative committals from, you know, some of the bigger names in the liberty movement to come on and have a discussion with us. And we think the similar model to the way we're on Whiskey Capitalist is what we can do to start bringing guests to you, dear listener and viewer. So we hope to get that up and running in the very near future and start giving you some extra content. These episodes with just David and I, the normal ones that you've come to know and love, will always keep coming at you fast. But we will also supplement that, hopefully, with an interview every week or a couple weeks or however often we can get them, with guests on the show to come on and talk about various topics, books they're writing, movements they're involved in, etc. So that's one of the things we're going to bring to you in the year 2023, year of our Lord, 2023. And we hope you enjoy the extra content.
Anymore. There's no God anymore with all this shit going on.
So,
but with all that cheery news, guys, as always, stay safe. But more importantly, stay free.